In this series, so far we've gone over almost every single card category in the game. The only card type left? Link Monsters. Link Monsters are the newest type of card, introduced in July 2017. Link Monsters, on top of being super cool looking, are also extremely important to the game. Why is that? Let's find out. I'm Fairy Tail Luna, and I believe that Tony Hawk's Underground deserves an HD remake. This is Yugiology. Alright, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, haven't we already done these things? I definitely remember the color blue. The answer is no, we have not gone over Link Monsters. We went over the other blue cards, Ritual Monsters, which are completely different. Aside from the color, there are many factors that differentiate Link Monsters from other cards. For example, these monsters are the only type of monster card that have no defense points. They also have no level or rank. And of course, some major defining features that you may have noticed by now are these little pointy boys around the card art. Those are Link arrows, and are a lot more important to the playstyle of Link Monsters than you may realize. Without further ado, let's go over what makes Link Monsters so important, shall we? As I said before, Link Monsters lack two things that most other monsters have: defense points and a level or rank. Instead of those, Link Monsters have what's known as a Link rating. A Link rating is probably what matters most when performing a Link summon. To do a Link summon, send a certain number of monsters from the field to the graveyard. Then, select a Link monster from your extra deck whose Link rating is equal to the number of monsters sent to your graveyard. By sending 3 monsters to the graveyard, you can Link summon a monster with a Link rating of 3. When Link summoning, you can also use the Link ratings of Link monsters already on the field to your advantage. Let's say you have a Link 2 monster on the field. You can send that monster, along with a non-Link monster, to the graveyard to summon a Link 3 monster. In this instance, the Link 2 monster is being treated as 2 monsters. And of course, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Boom! Link 3 monster. So, does this mean that you can summon a Link 3 monster by sending another Link 3 monster to the graveyard?
Well, no, you big piece of shit.
Here's why. This is Decode Talker.
Hi, Decode Talker.
Decode Talker is a Link 3 monster. Let's take a look at its description. In the description, you can clearly see that the summoning conditions for this monster are 2 or more effect monsters. This means that under any circumstances, you absolutely have to use at least 2 monsters to summon it. And given that its Link rating is 3, that means that you have to either use 3 effect monsters, or an effect monster and a Link 2 monster. Okay. Now that we've gone over what a Link summon is, let's talk about the extra monster zone. Something that I forgot to mention in my earlier videos is that you can only use one of the extra monster zones at a time. This means that if you have a monster in the extra monster zone, you cannot use the other extra monster zone. That belongs to your opponent. Keep your hands off. You also cannot summon 2 monsters from the extra deck at the same time. And if you have a monster in your extra monster zone, sorry to say this, but you can't summon another monster from the extra deck, since you can only use one extra monster zone, and monsters from the extra deck can't go in the main monster zone. Unless you have a Link monster on the field. You remember those Link arrows that I was talking about? Those arrows open up new possibilities for extra deck summoning. Normally, if you summon a monster from the extra deck, it has to go into an empty extra monster zone. But if you have a Link monster in your extra monster zone, and that Link monster has arrows that point downward, you can do this. Oh. So yeah, now you can summon monsters from the extra deck to the main monster zones, as long as those main monster zones have a Link monster pointing to them. If your Link monster points to 2 of your main monster zones, you can summon monsters from the extra deck to one of those zones. And you can open up more of your monster zones by summoning more Link monsters to those zones. Another thing that Link arrows can do is the game mechanic known as linking. If a Link monster points to another monster, the monster it points to is considered linked to that Link monster. If 2 or more Link monsters point to each other, they're considered co-linked. And check this out. You can co-link all of your Link monsters together and arrange their arrows in such a way that will allow you to use both extra monster zones. That's called a motherfucking extra link! Woo! Yeah! Since Link monsters don't have levels, they cannot be used for the summon of a Ritual, Synchro, or Xyz monster, since those monsters rely on levels in order to be summoned. Also, since Link monsters don't have defense points, they can't be placed in defense position. This makes them the only monsters in the game that cannot, under any circumstances, exist sideways. This video might have been kinda confusing to most players, like my pendulum video. If you left this video more confused than you did when you started watching, I advise you to consult the official Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulebook. I'll have a link to that in the description. Wait. I'll have a link to that in the description? Is that where the name comes from? And is that why Link monsters are blue? Because actual Links are blue? Nice. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. Like the video. Share it with your friends. Leave a comment. Check out my main channel where I make music. Kiss me on the lips and tell me how much you love me. I'm Fairy Tail Luna, and there will be more Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos coming soon. Goodbye.